It's a great day to be an ascender. Hi, everybody. My name is Jeff Holbrook. I'm Director of Admissions here at IMG Academy. What we've got here is a series of webinars in an effort to educate all those families out there that might have prospective student athletes that are looking at the Academy. Today, we have a very fortunate opportunity to speak with our head of school. Head of school is Mr. Chris Locke. Chris, how you doing today?
Doing well, Jeff, and I'm excited to be able to have this web conversation with our prospective families.
Awesome. How about you tell us a little bit about yourself, Chris?
Sure. So, as you mentioned, I'm currently the head of school, and I'm finishing up my 16th year at IMG Academy, and it has been an absolute incredible journey from where we started when I got here at the end of 2003 to now to becoming IMG Academy. And it's so very special because ultimately what we want to be the premier boarding school for students that have a passion for one of our 8 sports. And we've really been able to grow and I think in many ways achieve that goal. But the best thing about the Academy is we're never satisfied. We're always wanting to get better. And so, as we bring in better quality students, better quality athletes, I think we can achieve that goal.
One thing that intrigued me when I looked at IMG Academy to become the director of admission was sort of your path. And I saw the many hats that you have worn during that 2003 to now. Can you kind of walk us through some of the roles you've had at IMG Academy?
Absolutely. I started at the Academy working for the University of Miami, and the University of Miami had a partnership with the Academy, and we offered intensive English. And then we also started our post-grad program in 2004. And basically that allowed students that had graduated high school, whether it was the Pendleton School on campus or some of the other schools, to come in and spend a year without affecting their NCAA eligibility, continue to become better student athletes. But more importantly, they could enroll in courses through the University of Miami that they could then transfer wherever they decided to go. And then from there in 2011, Miami made a change, and I stayed with the Academy as their first director of the University and Language Center, and we started a partnership with the University of South Florida. That partnership is still in existence today. And from there, I became the first dean of students after an FCIS accreditation visit, and that was an outstanding opportunity for me to both get to better understand who our student athletes are, what makes them successful, how to create the right learning and training environment for them. And as I was doing that, I got more and more involved on the academic side, and then ultimately made a transition to Dean of Faculty and served in that role for a year. And then our head of school and the gentleman that founded the Pendleton School at IMG Academy, which became, the academic department, resigned. And I said, you know what? I put my hat in the ring and was fortunate to have support from our faculty. And, 4 years ago, I was named head of school. And it's just been a fantastic journey for me to be a part of the growth, because it's been a growth professionally for me, but it's also been a growth of the Academy because we've nearly doubled in size. And it's just become truly an amazing place for the right students.
That's great. I love that, the Academy does that for a lot of our different employees here at the school, whether it's academic affairs managers, teachers, et cetera, that have wore different hats. It's something that's very special about our place. During your time, you've obviously seen a lot of change in the academic rigor of our IMG Academy's program. And I'll be upfront that in my office, in the admissions office, when a prospective family is coming in and they want to know about our academic program, they often have a stereotype that our academics aren't as strong. And I often talk about how, in the past, there may have been a little bit of truth to that. Can you talk a little bit about what you've seen in the change of academics here at IMG?
Yeah, absolutely. And you're right, Jeff. I think that is sometimes a pretty common misconception, because they think that maybe we're like other sport training facilities that are really there to just focus on the sport. And oh, by the way, there's an academic program. That's certainly not the case for us. And it's certainly not the case in my experience. We have come a very long way. And one of the best attributes I think about the Academy is, the academic program was founded in 2001. So we don't have 150-year history that this is the IMG way and the way that we've always done it. The IMG way for me and what I've experienced is, how can we continue to get better? How can we grow? So we took what was the existing school program, which was started, in all honesty, as to be more convenient, to be more complementary to the training, so kids didn't have to leave campus and go somewhere else. But along the way, we've attracted families that have both student athletes that are truly student athletes, and they're just as passionate about how they can become successful academically as they are athletically. And for them, in order to make the very difficult choice and to commit financially, moving their sons or daughters, all the factors that go into it, they want to make sure that if they give their son or daughter this opportunity, that we're not going to injure them or we're not going to hold them back academically. And that's what I've seen change over the years. We have grown from a complementary program to where academics stands on its own. And we ultimately want to be as well known for our academic program as we are for our athletic program. Understanding that we're not having this conversation and families aren't watching this webinar if they don't have a child that's really interested in one of our 8 sports. We get that. But beyond that, we want to make sure that that experience is just as good as the athletic one, so that they can open up doors. We want the athletic skills to open up doors to colleges and universities that may have been unable to be opened without the sport side of things to help with recruiting, but more importantly, knowing that they have an academic foundation to be able to be successful in those schools. And over the years that I've been here, that is absolutely the case. We place student athletes in Ivy Leagues, in service academies, in highly competitive academic D3 schools, and every college and university in between. Ultimately, we want to find what is that best fit for our student athletes. So to answer your question a little bit more deeply, what have we done? Number one, we search for the best faculty we can find. And for us, once we pass credentials, it's not necessarily the best credentials, but we want faculty that are engaged, that understand what our mission is that we have student athletes. And to be a faculty member here is challenging because on average, our student athletes travel and miss school for 2 to 8 weeks, depending on which sport and which team or they play on. So that's a tough thing to do when you're a teacher, to have these great lessons. Then all of a sudden, 5 boys are lifted out of class because the baseball game was a home game, got moved to the road, and all of a sudden they've got to travel. How are they going to maintain a great lesson? How are they going to reteach those young men that maybe had to leave class unexpectedly and keep everyone progressing and moving forward? So engaged faculty is where I think we're a little bit unique. The second thing we've done is we've added a full honors track and we've expanded our AP courses. So at the base level, college preparatory curriculum ready for students to be successful. But then we've added that extra layer of honors courses to challenge students a little bit more. And then we now offer 15 AP courses for students that really want to push their academic abilities to their full potential as well.
Sure. I would say that the number of families that are in my office talking about the higher level academics, higher goals, higher aspirations for university status, definitely outweighs anything else. When did you maybe see some of that turnover happen? When did these families become more interested, in a higher level of academics? Not that, obviously our athletic programs speak for themselves, national champion, et cetera. But then when did you feel like that academic switch kind of turned over?
I think it started probably around 2010, 2011. As the school was starting to grow, we started to expand in some sports. I'll give you an example. When we added lacrosse, for example, lacrosse is often played at schools in the Northeast and the Mid-Atlantic that are also tend to be very good academic schools as well. So those families, in order to make a commitment to leave their boarding schools or their independent schools in the Northeast and the Mid-Atlantic, said, you've got to show me that you're not going to injure my son if he comes down here, or my daughter, now that we have women's lacrosse. So that started the process. And then we really took a giant leap forward when we built our new academic center, when we opened in 16 school year. That, I think, more than anything, showed that we were as committed to the academic experience and the whole student experience as much as we worked to the athletic side because we now had science labs, 4 of them. We had art studios. We had more classroom space so that we could add breadth to the curriculum. And that was just a huge kind of change for us to be able to make the commitment to academics. And as you know, when we opened our new expansion and added 30,000 square feet, the focus there was additional classroom space, but it was also a language center for our international students that need to learn English and also for their parents eventually. More importantly, it then added the hands-on engineering lab so that we could continue to grow. We knew the one area we were a little bit weak was in technology, computer science, and we're starting to address that. And then those extra classroom spaces so we can add more depth in math and science and English and really create a true academic experience. And even though we've added those pieces, it's important to us that we find the right balance for our students because they could focus entirely on athletics, and we know that's not best for them. We could wear them out academically. We could give them 2 honors and 3 APs. We also know that may or may not be good for them. So for us, the individual nature from when they start meeting with you at admissions to working with their academic affairs manager or their college counselor is always finding that healthy tension between the pull of athletics and the pull of academics so that the student can still remain whole and healthy and that they're not so stressed out or that they don't have to, miss practice because they can't keep up with their schoolwork and so forth. Trying to find that balance is what I think we do a pretty good job at.
I think as a part of that balance, something that you've done, and it was before I got here, is really take a deep dive into the schedule and the way that we've divided the school up and allowed for, morning school or morning training, afternoon school, afternoon training, et cetera, basically cutting the school almost in half. Can you talk a little bit about how you feel that benefits a student athlete?
Absolutely. And I think to your point, what that definitely does is it allows us to keep our class sizes smaller. Yeah. And by able to do that, we're able to keep most of our classes in that sweet spot for the academy, which is 14 to 16. And we both know that's not always the case, but it's what we strive for. So it does give those sports the ability to have the right numbers on their teams. It allows us to have, large of tennis players, for example, but because we split them up, they still get the appropriate court time because, in essence, you can break those 2 programs apart. And we're constantly, tweaking the schedule to make sure, again, that it's what's best for the students. We make changes, not for the sake of making change, but because we think we can utilize some, measure to improve their experience. And we want to be able to incorporate that into help them be more successful. And surprisingly, oftentimes our afternoon students who you would think maybe would be too tired or wouldn't do well academically are often excellent students. Sure. Our 2, top students, our valedictorian, our salutatorian this year, happen to be in PM school. It's not always the case, but sometimes having that, sport trained really prepares them for being successful in the afternoon. But it works well on both ends of the spectrum.
I'll speak as a father. My son moved from morning school to afternoon school. It was a great change for him. He just seems much more focused in the afternoon. He's got that training in the morning. He's got the blood flowing workout. And then he comes to school at 1:15 and he seems ready to go. Certainly, that was a very impressive move that you all made to make that change. Let's talk about how that schedule and how the rigor then, how does that prepare someone to go on and be, whether it's a Division I athlete, Division II athlete, et cetera, but to take those skills to the next level?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. And it's one that, again, I think our students become better prepared to make the transition from high school to college, and it gives them definitely a bit of a competitive advantage. And we hear that from the coaches that recruit our students that have had IMG Academy student athletes before. They come to campus ready to compete, ready to manage their time and their athletics and their academics, oftentimes better than those that haven't lived a boarding school experience. So think about it. They've come to the academy and they've balanced high level athletics, where maybe they were the best player in their town to now they're one of incredible best players. So they're now the small fish in the bigger pond, and they've adjusted to that, and that has helped them raise their game by playing against better competition. As we've improved the quality of the school program, we've put them in an environment, again, that is a competitive environment. It's student-centered, but not student-enabled. And we've put them in a position to balance the athletics with the academics. And then now they're living independently, with over 800 of our student athletes living in our residence halls, having to manage the day in and day out with support of staff on campus, residential mentors, teachers, coaches. But they've already sort of had a bit of a college model. And then, as I mentioned earlier, they've learned to be successful while missing somewhere between 2 and 8 weeks, just like they will in college when they go on a road trip or something. And how can they understand the importance of meeting with a teacher in office hours to get caught up, to ask that important question so they understand those concepts? When you balance those three things together, the high level athletics, challenging and rigorous academics, and then the travel piece, as well as living independently, that really puts a student athlete in position to make that turn to college athletics much, much easier and in many ways more successful, often allowing our students to take leadership roles early on. They often get named captain as they finish their collegiate career.
Yeah, that's great. You talked a little bit about campus life, and you mentioned residential mentors. Talk a little bit how you've seen the role of the residential mentor change over the years and sort of where we are in our dorms.
Yeah, such a great point. And, that's one of the areas where the academy is different than the traditional Northeast boarding school, because in there, and it's a great model, you teach, you coach, and you also live in the residence halls. So you have sort of that triple threat model where you wear 3 different hats, and that is great. But the academy's taken the approach that, we want the best teachers, we want the best coaches, and we want them to focus on those aspects. And then we'd love to have some staff that can wear 2 hats and also live in the residence halls. But we've made a conscious effort to really, to your point, boost up the campus life program and add more residential mentors. We have 24 that live right on our campus in our dorms with us. But there's also a staff of 40 that are there to be sort of provide the support that mom and dad would when they can't be here. We'll never replace mom and dad, but we want them to have the relationship with the students so that they know, hey, something's not right with Jeff today. I'm gonna pull him aside and talk to him and see how it's going on. And he might find out that, Jeff misses his dog, or, his grandmother passed away, or all the things that happen in life. And how do we give the appropriate resources to support that young man or young woman? And that's where really the mentors have grown, because we've added that staff so that they can have the relationship to provide that support and get to know our student athletes and support them, because they're in school 4 to 5 hours a day, they're in sport 4 to 5 hours, but that leaves another 14 hours of the day where they're moving about this campus, and we want to provide that extra layer of support for them.
I'll speak again, as a father, and my son, who is a non-boarding student, but he really acts like a boarding student because he enjoys his time. He's hanging with his buddies. And, to have some of the residential mentor staff come to me and talk to me about my son and how well they know him, and that's really impressed me. It's one thing, for Coach Tardy, to know him well, or, any of the teachers to talk about him, Mr. Davis, text him, about doing his homework. But then to have one of the residential mentors say, oh, yeah, and your son has been so great. He's always hanging out with the guys. I've always been impressed by how well they've done, in that dorm scene. They're working hard, obviously, with, all work and no play makes Jack a dull boy. So our activities work is something else. Maybe you can speak of how you've seen the activities over time.
Absolutely. And that is the area where I think we've changed the most. When I first got here, and I would have conversations, whether it was coming for a PG year, as I moved into meeting with prospective families and in the role of dean of students, I had to talk about, if I was being honest with families, that what you might have to give up socially, or what you might give up from a more traditional high school experience where, okay, and we've always had a prom, and the IMG prom is special, for sure. In our homecoming, we do on the Yacht Starship and go out and sail in Tampa Bay. But it was the clubs and organizations, the activities on campus that were lacking. And that was, we meet with student leaders every semester, and that was something that they brought up to us. Students were the reason why we have an incredible activity park on campus as well, because they wanted a place that they could relax, that they could hang out, that they could enjoy when they weren't at school and they weren't at sport. So what's really changed is the growth of student activities. We now have over 24 clubs and organizations, from a student council to a green team to Model UN, a fishing club, as
You mentioned my favorite club.
Yeah. And so that has made a big difference in the quality of the experience when you weren't in school and when you weren't in sport. And then we've added to the type of events that we do on campus. It's not just a traditional dance. They have what they call student activities certified events. And those certified events are ones that are generally pretty special. We've got a full calendar with community service and visits to places of worship on the weekend, but also activities along the way. And then when it's special, check-in weekends around winter and so forth. When you have those certified events, those are the ones that the students really look forward to.
Yeah, that's great. Anything else you'd like to talk about in the growth of the Academy? What are some other things that stand out to you as how far IMG has come?
I think the thing to me that is special about the Academy is, and hopefully we'll get into it in one of the other webinars, is how APD, and that stands for Athletic and Personal Development, is the kind of the glue and the interconnective tissue between athletics and school. And it's such an amazing program. And to me, it's our real competitive advantage, because there's other places that you can go for sports and boarding school and so forth. But how many of them can say, and we'll use Johnny, your son, for an example with the football team. Football has their own strength and conditioning coach, athletic trainers that are at practice every day and get to know their student athletes. And then they have a leadership coach to work on mental conditioning and having a growth mindset. Again, the challenge when you come in, when you used to be the best and now you're not the best and you're competing every day, that takes a really growth mindset to be able to realize that competition is going to make you better. As football will put on their shirts, iron sharpens iron, so that they can compete on a regular basis. Having 3, now possibly 4 registered dietitians on staff to address the nutritional needs of our student athletes, 3 leadership coaches to talk to them about leadership skills, to give them interpersonal communication skills, yoga instructors. The program is just so comprehensive, and for that right student that is willing to come in and embrace what we have to offer, from the teachers, from the coaches, the athletic and personal development coaches, the mentors, if you're willing to soak it up, you can get just incredible knowledge and really prepare yourself to be successful. And at the end of the day, what I believe makes IMG different than everything, along with APD, is the relationships. This is a relationship place. It's a relationship that you have with your coach, with your teachers, your mentor, your athletic trainer. Those are the ones that create that bond to this campus. And I think that's where we hire a special type of student athlete so that they can create those relationships with their coaches, their teachers, and their staff and the staff.
Awesome. I'll tell you what, Chris, this has been fun. Anything you want to say to the families before we end this?
Absolutely. What I would say is, like I always do, is ask a lot of questions, make informed choices, pepper you with questions, because if you don't know Jeff, you know who to ask. But our best families are the ones that ask a lot of questions, visit campus, truly understand that it's different to be here for the academic year than it is when you for camp. But if your son or daughter loves the sports that we offer, they want to compete both on the field, in the classroom, and grow as a person, I can't think of a better place to be than here.
Awesome.
Thank you so much.
Pleasure working with you. All right, all of you, if you have any other questions on the admissions process, financial aid, or campus life, stay tuned to this site for more webinars coming soon. Or you can reach out today by calling 1-866-300-4538. Visit imgacademy.com to request more information, or call me, Jeff Holbrook, in the admissions office. Thank you very much. Go Ascenders!